Hello, I'm Matt, and we're going to be playing Dutch Flatmates 10 or 11. So I'll start the puzzle. I guess I'll start by reading the rules. Normal Sudoku rules apply. This is a Sudoku. Fives live in Dutch flats. Every 5 in the grid must have a 1 directly above it or a 9 directly below it. It may have both, but it doesn't need both. All right, so what this means is that we need to find where the 5s are going to go in the grid. And then every 5 is either going to have a 1 above it or a 9 below it. This is the Dutch Flatmates rule. This Dutch Flatmates series was coming out for a long time by a setter called Flinty, and I had done several of his or her puzzles. And some of them may even appear on this channel. But let's keep it with the rules because I would like to start. So there's a 10 or 11 rule, which is that adjacent cells along colored lines sum to 10 or 11. Okay, that's interesting. I've never played a rule like this before. Let's look at the puzzle now. So these are our lines. I guess adjacent numbers along the lines are going to sum to 10 or 11. They must sum to 10 or 11. And the thing that's striking me at this moment, I think, is that the lines are symmetric. Rotationally symmetric. I think. Oh, okay. So I was going to say that because of the symmetry in the lines rule, I wasn't quite sure where to start, how we would do this, because I think if it was just the rules about these lines, then I think this puzzle would have a couple of solutions. But I think that the way that we're going to figure out what actually goes on the lines is this Dutch flatmate rule. But we should get started and look at what we can do. So the first thing I'm thinking about is this very long line, because we know that on this line, we need to have the numbers 1 through 9 at least once. And if I was to say put a 1 somewhere, then that one needs to be paired with a 9. There's no way of making there's no way of using a 1 to get to 11. There can't be a 10. What that means is that the 1 is going to need to go, I guess, on one of the ends of the line. But it would need to look something like this. So 1, 9, then maybe 2. So we add to 11. Now this needs to add, I guess, to 10, so we're going to need an 8 there because we can't use another 9. Then this would need to add to 11, so there'd be a 3. Then 3 can't add to 11 anymore. We would need a 7 here, something like this. And then a 7, let's see, would then have to a 4, and then a 4 would need, so we'd have 6, and then a 5. Yes, okay, so 1s and 5s need to be on the corner of this line. We don't know if it's going to look like this or it's going to be rotated around. And I think a 3 is going to need to go in the middle. But a 5, there's no other number we could add to 5 to get to 10. I mean, we could add 5 and 5, but they would be in the same box. We'd have 2 5s next to one another. That wouldn't be allowed. So we're going to need a 5 on the end of the line because a 5 can only pair with one number. Similarly, we need a 1 on the end of the line because the 1 can only pair with the 9. What that means is that somewhere, like this is either going to be a 1 or a 5, this is going to be a 1 or a 5, this is going to be a 9 or a 6, this is going to be a 9 or a 6, but this is going to need to be a 3, and we can fill all this stuff in. So let's do that, actually. Let's fill it all in. I guess we'll use the small numbers. U can only be a 1 or a 5. The same is actually true here. U can only be a 1 or a 5. No, 1 or 5. All right. Now U can be a 6 or a 9. Okay, and U can only be a 6 or a 9. Now U can be a 2 or a 4. U can be a 2 or a 4. U can be a 7 or an 8. And U can be a 7 or an 8. And then the 3 goes in the middle. So I think we've learned about as much as we can learn about this area. Nice. Nice. But I think I was saying this earlier. We're probably going to need to exploit the Dutch flatmates rule to figure out whether or not there's a 5 up here or there's a 1 here. And let's figure out how we would do that. Say this was a 5. Say this was a 5. What would need to happen? Maybe I shouldn't have erased all my writing because I'm going to put it back in there in a second. If this was a 5, what would happen? Well, we couldn't have, what goes below a 5? A 9? We couldn't have a 9 below it. We would need a 1 above it. That 1 would need to go here. Would that be allowed? I think it would. It wouldn't conflict at all. But if there was a 1 here, we might run into problems, wouldn't we? Because, oh, no, we wouldn't. We wouldn't run into problems. If there was a 1 here, we would need a 9 here. and a 9 here. And if there was a 5 here, there'd be a 6 here. Okay, so maybe we should just try these two configurations and see if either of them work. So I'm going to put in all those numbers I just put back in. But it looks like there's only one thing to do once you have an orientation here. It's to kind of to fill in things. All right, so let's put it back. So we had 5, then 6, then 4, then 7, then 3, then 8, then 2, then 9, then 1. This was one possibility. There's two possibilities for what go on the red line. This is one of them. And if it was this possibility, then what would we run into? We would need a 1 here. And if that 1 goes here, then this needs to be a 9, and this needs to be a 9. And that is where our contradiction lies. This can't be a 5. This needs to be a 5. And we've filled in at least, let's see, 10 numbers, I think, that I can see. Let me show you where those 10 numbers go. So this is going to be a 5. This is going to be a 6. This is going to be a 4, if I hit it right. This is going to be a 7. This is going to be an 8. If I hit it right, this is going to be a 2. This is going to be a 9. And then this is going to be a 1. Those are the numbers that go on this red line. I know this for certain. So now we have a 5 in the grid. We have to use the Dutch flatmates rule. This means that there's going to be a 9 below that 5, not a 0, but a 9. And now we need to find numbers that add either to, let's see, 10 or 11. 10 or 11. That means this can only be a 1 or a 2. You can only be a 1 or a 2. And you can also only be a 1 or a 2. And there's no conflict there, I don't think. These aren't going to run into any problems. Okay, you now need to add to 10 or 11. And you're going to need to do that with a 1 or a 2. So how could we add to 10 with 1? We would use a 9, right? How can we add to 11 with 1? We can't. How can we add to 11 with 2? We'd use a 9. How can we add to 10 with 2? We'd use an 8. So this would be an 8. This can't be an 8. This needs to now be a 9. We're getting a lot. And now if this is a 9, this is going to need to be a 1 or a 2 also. So we actually know something. We know that the 1s and 2s in this region are definitely going to go here and here like this. Interesting. This is a good puzzle. I really liked the Dutch flatmate series when it was coming out. It's gotten so much. There's so many more puzzles than when the last time I played this series. I think there was only like 10 Dutch flatmates puzzles in the series when I started playing it about a year ago. Now I think there's some 40. Okay, but we can keep going. So how do we keep going? How? Well, we should probably be exploiting this Dutch flatmates rule as much as possible. We have 9s in these two regions. A 9 needs to go below a 5. And there needs to be a 9 somewhere up here. Somewhere up here there's going to be a 9. Could a 9 go here? Yes, I think it could. If a 9 went here, we'd need a 1 or a 2 here. I think that would be okay. If a 9 went here, we'd need a 1 or a 2 here. I think that would be okay. If a 9 went here, we wouldn't be okay. If a 9 went here, we would need a 1 or a 2 in this location, and that would cause a contradiction with those. So a 9 can't go here. We know that in this region, the 9 must come either here or here. Interesting. But now, I don't know what now. Maybe we should... I was going to say that if the 9 went here, this would need to be a 1 or a 2, and if the 9 went here, this would need to be a 1 or a 2. I don't really see any problems with those yet. If this was a 1 or a 2 and this was a 1 or a 2, we wouldn't be allowed any more 1s and 2s in this row. We'd still need a 1 here somewhere. That's actually a pretty good question. Where does the 1 need to go in this column? Where's the 1 go in this column? Because if a 1 falls on a line, then it needs to pair with a 9, right? So, for example, if a 1 went here, we would need a 9 here. Now, that's not allowed. We've got a 9 in that column already. If a 1 went here, we would need a 9 here. That's not allowed either. If a 1 went here, we would need a 9 here, or here, and here, and here. Well, not there. But the point is that it wouldn't work. I think the only spot in this region for a 1 is right here, in this column, excuse me. For a 1 is right there. I think a 1 goes there. And now we know that a 1 goes in this row. But again, we're going to run into problems with this. So where does the 1 go in this column? Well, it can't go here because we would need a 9. It can't go here because we need a 9. You need to be our 1. You're a 1. You are a 1. You're a 10. You're a 10 square. All right. But we've made some progress. We just need to keep it rolling. I feel pretty good about using the 1s and the 9s because of the Dutch flatmate rule. Maybe we should also be using the 5 more if we can. For example, this region is going to need a 5. And that 5, it could go here and have a 9 below it. That would be allowed, but it couldn't go here or here because it would need a 1 above it, and that's not allowed. So no 5s can go here. 5s can't go in either of these cells. Can either of you be a 5? Well, if you can't be a 5, you would need a 1 above you, which would conflict, or a 9 below you, which would conflict. Can either of you be a 5? Well, if you were a 5, you'd be a 6. No, there's a 5 in this row. Interesting. So we're really running out of squares for the 5 in this region. I think the only one that is allowed is this one. Didn't we say that? You guys can't be 5s. You can't be a 5, and neither can you. You must be a 5. You have a 9 below you. You have your Dutch flatmate. So we're good there. Cool. We are 11 minutes into the puzzle, and we've made some progress. Let's keep it rolling. Okay. So if 5 goes here, 5s go here. That means there needs to be a 5 somewhere in this region, in this row, in this region. But there's a problem with that. There's a problem with this because that 5 is either going to need a 1 above it, which it is not allowed to have, or a 9 below it. So our 9 must go down here somewhere. Our 5 must go here somewhere. 5 must go here somewhere. But we don't know what. If the 5 was on the line, it would need to pair with a 6. So if this is a 5, it's going to come with a 6. If this is a 5, something else might happen. But we know a little bit about what's going on. What would have to happen? Let's see. If you were a 5, you would need to be a 6. And then you would need to be a 4. And then you could be a 6 or a 7. But you can't be a 7. You would need to be a 6. And then maybe you're something. We just need to sort of like follow the trail through the lines and think about what happens. What happens if you're a 5? That's my question. Let's test it out. If you're a 5, then you need to pair with 2 6s. So that's not allowed. You're not allowed to be a 5. If you're a 5, then, excuse me, if you're a 5, then you need to pair with a 6. And that 6 needs to pair with a 4. Now this 4 can pair with a 6 or a 5. It can pair with a 6 or a 5. If this could be a 6 or a 5, then this could be, well, it can't be a 6. It can't be a 5. I don't know if it can be a 5. Maybe it can be a 5. We're going to need a 5 in this region someplace. We could come back to that. But maybe this little effort here was not what we were supposed to do. I think that the 5 should either go here or here. And that 5 is going to need a 9 below it, absolutely, which means the 9 cannot go here anymore. The 9 must go here or here. But I think I said something about trying the 5 in this region, didn't I? That's probably not a bad idea. We need a 5 in this region someplace, and it's going to need to come in here or here. How are we going to do that? Well, Are we going to be able to do that? Are we going to need to do something else? I'm not sure. We need a 5 somewhere. That 5 is either going to need a 1 above it or a 9 below it, and it's going to need to appear in this region. None of these squares can have a 1 above them. None of these squares can have a 1 above them, which means that whichever place that 5 goes is going to need a 9 below it. Now, there's only a couple of options for that. You can be a 9, or you can be a 5, excuse me, because you would have a 9 below you. Okay? We need a 5 up here. The only place that a 9 can go below you is either here or here. You could be a 5. It's possible that there's a 5 here and a 9 here. But if there was a 5 here, then it couldn't be a 9. That 9 would need to go here. Then this would need to be a 1 or a 2. This would need to be a 2. Interesting. Interesting. This is a good puzzle. I really like it. We're branching out from the center. But can we do better? Can we do more? Let's find out. I wonder if there's something to exploit about the fact that along this line we have 8, 7, and 3. That means that an 8, 7, and 3 can't go here anywhere. But these are, that creates some constraints on what this number can be. Because this number needs to add to 5 with this, and these need to add to 5 together, something like that. Interesting. We know a little bit about our 5s. What about our 5s down here? Down here, the 5 is either going to need a 1 above it or a 5 below it. So where could squares go that could reasonably have a 1 above them or a 9 below them? None of you guys. There's a 9 and a 1 in here already. None of you can have a 9 below you. None of you can have a 9 below you, and this means that wherever the 5 goes, it's going to need a 1 above it. So that is going to need to go here. That's the only way of having a 1 above you, I think. And then if this is a 5, this needs to be a 6. Now you can't be a 5, which means you need to be a 5. And if you're a 5, then you're a 9. And if you're a 9, then you're a 2. Now, here we're going to get something interesting. We've sort of run into the first time where we can have two 5s on the same line. We were using the two 5s can't go next to one another in many places. Here, here we used it a little bit. Here we probably used it a little bit. But now we've run into an instance where this could reasonably be a 5. So I don't know what that means. It means we're going to have a little less help with this green line than with some of the other lines. But we know there's a 5 and a 6 here. Now, this leaves squares open for things. What are the missing numbers down here? Well, we're missing a 2. Where would a 2 go? Let's not use 2. Let's use 7 and 4, because 7 and 4 are missing from this region, and they can't go in this column. That means you two need to be, what do you need to be? You need to be a 7 and a 4. 7 and 4. All right. And if this is a 7 or 4, if you were a 4, you could be a 6. You can't be a 6, though, because of this. You could also be a 7. So this could possibly be a 7, right? If you're a 7, then you can be a 3, or you can be a 4. So this can be a 3 or a 4. Those are the numbers that are allowed here. Can we try it down here a different way? So if this was a 4, then we would either need a 6 or a 7 here, and that's not going to be allowed. So you're not allowed to be a 4. You need to be a 7. You need to be a 4. If you were a 4, then what did we say that you're allowed to be? Only 7. You need to be a 7. And now if you're a 7, you can't be a 4. You need to be a 3. If you're a 3, you can't be a 7. You need to be an 8. Now the only number that is missing is 2, and we have filled in another region. This is great. Now, this 8 needs to add to 10 or 11 with this number, but it can't be 2. It needs to be 3. Okay, this 3 needs to add to 10 or 11 with this number. That leaves us with 7 and 8, I think, and I don't see any problems with 7 or 8. But what's going to happen here, if this was a 7, we could have a 3, that's not allowed. We could have a 4, that is allowed, so you're a 4. Now, if you're an 8, you can be a 3, but that's not allowed. You could be a 2, so a 2 is the other option. 2 and 4 can go here, but we've almost filled in this full line. I wonder if we can repeat the procedure up at the top. At the very least, we have a column with one number missing. What is that number? That number is 6. Excuse me, that number is a big 6. You're a 6. And if you're a 6, then we need to find some numbers that add to 10 or 11 with you. So, can you be a 5? You can't be a 5, which means you need to be a 4. Can you be a 5? You can't be a 5. You also need to be a 4. And if you're a 4, then this could be either a 6 or a 7. It can't be a 7. You need to be a 6. And if this is a 6, then this can be a 4, which it's not, or it can be a 5. So you are our 5. You are our 9. And we have filled in this orange line too. We are making a lot of progress on this puzzle. Now we have a column that is missing one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is missing. 8 is going to pair with either 2 or 3. There's only one thing left to do. It's 3, not 2. If it was 2, it would have rhymed, but it doesn't. 7 is the missing number. This adds to 10 with the 3. Now we have 7. 7 can pair with 3 or with 4. There's a 4 in the row. There needs to be a 3 here. 3 can pair with 7 or 8. 7 or 8. That gives us a 7 or 8 here. And then 7 and 8 can pair with what? Well, an 8 can pair with a 2 or a 3. Neither of those are allowed. So you can't be an 8. You need to be a 7. And if you're a 7, then you are a 4. And we have locked in this line. Great. Lots of progress. This green line is not allowed to have a 6 on it. And we got the situation I was talking about with 2 5s. Except now with 5s, we're going to have minor difficulty. We have to remember to return to the Dutch flatmates rule when we can. This 5 is either going to create a 1 above the 5 or a 9 below the 5. So a 1 or a 9 is going to come somewhere in this column, but we don't know what is what yet. Okay, can we do more? What are we missing in this row that doesn't really fit yet? Are we missing a 4 in this row? We are, and that 4 can't go here because of this 4. This needs to be our missing 4. So you're a 4, and where do the remaining 4s go? Because we have, how many of them? We have 7. Well, in this region we have a 4. That 4 needs to go here. And then in the last region down here, there should only be one spot for a 4. Unless I'm making some mistake. Hold on a second. Now we have 7 4s. So in this region, the 4 can either go here or here. The 4 can either go here or here. We use the other numbers for that. And in this region down here, the 4 can only go here or here. Something like that. So maybe 4 wasn't the number to look at, but we're almost done with 4s. And are we close to being done with 5s? I don't know. A 5 needs to go in this region. It needs to go here. You must be a 5, and now you must either have a 9 below you, which is not possible, or a 1 above you. That is possible. Okay, more 5s, 2 go. Where do the rest of our 5s go? A 5 could go here or here. If the 5 goes here, it could have a 1 above it. That's not allowed, or a 9 below it. That would be allowed, wouldn't it? If the 5 goes here, we would need a 1 above it, and that's allowed also. So we don't know too much about the 5s here. In this region, we are either going to have a 5 here, which would have a 1 above it. A 5, no, we're not, because there's a 5 in this column. So where can the 5s go? The 5s can only go here or here. If this was a 5, this would need to be a 1. That's allowed. If this is a 5, this could be a 9, or this could be a 1. All of this is allowed. So actually, we've just kind of confused ourselves down here. There's too much going on to make any more progress. But we're running out of lines. So there's really 3 rules that we get to exploit. We get to exploit the Dutch flatmates rule, this 9s and 5s rule that we need to remember to come back to because it's non-obvious. There's the lines rule, where numbers that are adjacent along a line must add to 10 or 11. We can exploit that. And there's the last rule, which is the normal Sudoku rules. And I'm worried that we're getting to a situation where we need to start really applying the normal Sudoku rules. In this row, for example, we need a 1 or a 2 to go here, because the missing numbers in this row are 1 and 2. So this is going to be a 1 or a 2. I shouldn't have used that. I should have used U2, 1 or 2. Is there another row or column that's close to filled in? How about this row or column? What are we missing in this row or column? Well, we're missing a 1 and a 2. That might go, here and here or something like that. We're missing a 6. Where can a 6 go? A 6 can go anywhere along this, I think. I think a 6 can go anywhere. Okay, we need an 8 in this region. That 8 needs to go here, right? Because it can't go up here. Now, what else do we need in this region? We need a 9. That 9 can go here, here. We're hopping around a little bit. We need a 2 in this region. 2 can go anywhere. And then we need what? We need a brain fart. See if you can see it before me. We need a 6. A 6 is the missing number. We don't know anything about where the 6 goes. So a little locked in up there. Everything else is a little bit more free, but can we figure out what's going on? Can we figure out anything else? We need a 6 in this region. That 6 is going to need to come either up here or up here. We need a 7 in this region. We're not going to have too much help on the 7. Here are 5s. Here are our 3s. Can we do anything with 3s? Well, the 3s must either appear here, here. Maybe we should be exploiting the lines. I'm not quite sure. We've got ourselves into a situation where now we're just throwing notation down all over the puzzle as we try to find what's going on. Can we use the purple lines? Can we use the purple lines? I haven't really tried yet. We don't have any information about what goes in the purple lines. We have information about what goes on the blue lines and things. Our 5s. If there was a 5 here, there would need to be a 1 here. I don't know if this would create any problems. Certainly there needs to be a 1 in this row somewhere, and a 9 in this column somewhere. And wherever the 5 goes in this row, we know where the 1 goes. It goes right above it. I guess in this region, the 5s, we know where the 5 goes. In this row, a 5 could go here. This is the other option. There needs to be a 5 in this row someplace. It can go here, or it can go here. If there was a 5 here, we would need a 1 above it. But that's allowed. Tough. I wonder what I'm not seeing. I wonder what I'm not seeing right now. What is the other missing number in this row? We have 3s. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 is the missing number. So our 6 is definitely going to go here. 6 and 3 definitely go here. What are the missing numbers in this row? That might tell us what goes up here. So in this row, we're missing what? We're missing a 2. We're missing an 8. And we're missing a 9. But that 9 can't go here. Can the 9 go here? If a 9 went here, a 2 would need to go here. I can't tell whether or not that's allowed. I wrote too much down on this. If an 8 went here, we could have a 2 or a 3. Oh, excuse me, a 9 can't go here because there's already a 2 in this row, so you're not allowed to be a 9. If you're not allowed to be a 9, then you must be our 9. And if you can now only be an 8 or a 2, if you're an 8, this would allow a 2 or a 3, so you would need to be a 3. If you are a 2, this would allow an 8 or a 9, but you would need to be an 8. Oh, hold on a second. Something is happening. If you're a 2, then you would need to be an 8. I think that would cause a problem, wouldn't it? That would cause us a problem. You're not allowed to be a 2. Excuse me. You're not allowed to be a 2. You would need to be an 8. And you would need to be an 8 to allow this to be 3, so that you can be 2, so that you can be 6, so that you can be 3. And we filled in so much more of this puzzle. And we actually used one of these lines. This is great. Okay, now a 2 is not allowed to go down here. If this was only ever allowed to be a 2 or a 4 before, then this needs to be a 4. If this needs to be a 4 and it needs to add a 2 or 11, then you need to be a 7. So that's what we've got. And now a 4 needs to go up here. Great. So we're missing some numbers in this column. What are those numbers? It looks like a 1 and a, again, having difficulty seeing the answer, 8. That 8 can't go up here. That 8 needs to go down here. And now you need to be our missing 1. Now in this region, we're missing one number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You're a 7. And now in this column, maybe we use the column. I don't know. Do we use the row? I don't think we're going to get any help from the row. We're missing a 1. Where's that 1 going to go? I'm not quite sure. We're missing a 2. Where is that 2 going to go? Well, I'm not quite sure either. We're missing a 8. Where is that 8 going to go? That 8 can't go down here. That 8 needs to go here. And if you're an 8, now you need to be our 1 and 2. If you're our 1 and 2, then there's no chance of putting a 5 down here to get a 1 above it. In fact, there's no chance putting a 5 down here to get a 1 above it. You need to be our 5. If you are our 5, then you would either need a 1 above you, which might be allowed. We haven't explored these enough, or a 9 below you. And a 9 below you is definitely allowed. In fact, we're going to need a 9 somewhere down here. So what are the missing numbers in this? It's 6 and 9. You must be a 6 and 9, except you're not allowed to be a 6. You need to be a 9. You need to be a 6. Great. Now this 5 actually has its Dutch friend. And we know where the last 5 goes. The last 5 goes down here. That 5 needs a 1 above it. That means that this needs to be a 3. This needs to be a 2. And now this needs to be a 1. And we've made tons of progress. You need to be a 2. You need to be a 1. And we're very quickly circling in on the end. 2. Where does our 2 need to go? Well, it could actually go in either of these. What is the other number that is missing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're missing a 6. That 6 can't go down here. That 6 needs to go up here. Now you need to be our 2. Now in this row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is the last missing number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8. 6 and 8 are what are going to go in here. By the way, you need to be a 9. You need to be a 9. And then what is the missing thing up here? It's a 2. Okay. 6 and an 8 is what we said. 6 and an 8, by the way. 6 and an 8 need to go here. Well, if this was a 6, then this could be a 4 or a 5. Neither of those are allowed. You need to be our 8. You need to be our 6. You can now be a 3 or a 2. You need to be a 3. You need to be a 6. And we can just fill it all in. We're missing a 7 and an 8. That 7 needs to go down here. That 8 needs to go here. We've got our rows. We've got 2 left to go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then the last missing number is 2. And we have done the puzzle in just under 30 minutes. That was a fun one. Dutch Flatmates 10 or 11 by Marty Sears. I don't know if I've done a puzzle by Marty Sears before. I've done these Dr. Flatmate series when they were coming out by Flinty, but that was a fun puzzle. So, great puzzle, Marty, and thank you for watching this video. If you got this far, I hope to see you in the next one. Have a good day.